All right, so this is going to be the Dead Sea Scrolls episode 1. And first, I figure I might as well explain to y'all, well, what is the Dead Sea Scrolls as a podcast, not the actual what it is, because I'm going to get into what the actual Dead Sea Scrolls are, but why I named this podcast the Dead Sea Scrolls and what is this, what we're going to be talking about, etc. Right? It's going to be about ancient history and civilizations. Not just the past, but the people living in the past, where the human race comes from. Sorry, I'm just checking my ring. So I'm talking about there's a person at my front door. It wasn't a person. It was just a car, though. Um, just talking about where the human race comes from. How advanced were we? How long ago was the advancements, etc. Just things like that. 'Cause a lot of it has been resurfacing in the media. People going over to Egypt, doing the LiDAR scans, seeing what's under the pyramids, etc., all that. So this is just going to be something that's covering those investigations in real time. And those discoveries that are getting uncovered, we're going to be elaborating on them and etc., talking about them. And this is just a place where you can come and kind of nerd out if you're one of those history buffs. Like, I wouldn't call myself a history buff, but I'm interested in this particular subject matter in history because it's been lied about so much. Like that, again, not just this subject matter, but history in general. But people been lying about where human beings come from, what we were doing in the past, how we were doing it, all that. So like this is just a place that's going to be no nonsense, all truth, all facts, all backed up with evidence. Anything I say to you, I'm going to be showing you. Never going to make an unfabricated claim. All right. And technology, I think I mentioned that in the civilization, but if I didn't, technology, ancient technology, there was way more than sticks and chisels thousands of years ago. They were doing things that we have no understanding or comprehension of how they were doing it, but we know they did it. And the pyramid is the best example because all the engineers of today, of right now, who say you didn't just do this with what we know you to have had, like the logistics in making a pyramid as they did in Giza, like we know they actually we see it, we know y'all did this, but how they're saying you did it, it's impossible physically from a logistical standpoint. Like we're talking about actual engineers that said it will be physically impossible to do what you say they did, how you say they did it. It's just not. So somebody's lying, you feel me? And also, not only has history been lied about in the past, but it's happening right now. If you haven't seen episode 1 of my other podcast, The Drop, I mentioned how Trump signed an executive order to defund any school that's teaching critical race theory. So basically, if you're teaching anything about the history of blacks in America, you're getting defunded. He's actively attacking black history. And for it to be happening in real time, right, further backs up my ideal that it's happened in the past. Like this is a regular thing for people, just kind of doing things to get rid of the actual history of the world for whatever reason, for whatever agenda that they have. They're going to do whatever tactics that they have at their disposal to get rid of certain facts about the past. But that's one of them. So history being lied about in the past and history currently being trying to be suppressed and getting rid of in real time. Okay, so and I have a couple theories of why people want to just get rid of history. The two things they do, they try to either get rid of it completely or whitewash it. And the reason why they try to whitewash it is because the further you go in history, the darker it gets. There's way more black people in way more places that you didn't know that there were black people because they didn't tell you. And either they didn't tell you or they lied and said it was white people. But like I said, they did that for a reason. And you're going to see as I keep going throughout this episode, I'm going to come back to that ideal of the further you go back in history, the blacker it gets, and black people being where they're not supposed to be. But we're going to come back to that. But that's another reason why I wanted to start this podcast. Like I said, there's much more. Black history is world history. It's not just off the slave ship type stuff. Okay. And of course, yeah, the first piece of black history that was lied about was the Bible. The Bible is Black history, right? And it's the first thing that people done. All right, we're gonna slow walk the dog on this one. We're gonna take baby steps, okay? So let me just hit y'all with a couple bullet points about the Bible that you already know. Adam and Eve, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob begot the 12 tribes, known as the Israelites, or also the Jews. And and then of course, which Jesus was a Jew. Christ came to redeem us, save us from ourselves, and save us from our sins. And basically, the Bible was a rule book, all the do's and don'ts. Anything else that y'all really need to know right now before I set this up? Do's and don'ts. The Jewish people. There was another fact that I was gonna mention, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But you guys know the gist of the Bible, of how it was told to us in the traditional form. That's what it is. A bunch of rules, regulations, and God speaking through his anointed individuals to write it down, because that's one of the things that people like to always say, who wrote the Bible. It was again, as we were told, it trustworthy individuals, the holy men, the guys that Christ anointed to. Whatever you see, that's one of the scriptures. Whatever thou seest, writest in a book. You know what I mean? So that's how we were told it to be. Okay, okay, cool. Now, the problem that I have with this is that when you go to Google, I'm gonna go to the actual homepage of Google, so you guys know. Okay, cool. Boom. When you search God, no, let's not even go that far. Let's start with Jesus, because they have a different God as above Jesus Christ. Christ is the physical form of God, the manifestation, whatever. So Christ is the one that was actually walking the earth. The dude that people saw in the flesh was Christ. So we're gonna start there. We're gonna definitely come back to the big G God, but let's start there. The guy that everybody knows, Jesus Christ. Okay. So when you search Jesus, images, that's what pops up. That's what pops up when you search Jesus, right? Now, when you search Jewish people, that's what pops up, right? Interesting. And then I just keep in mind of what these people look like. Their skin tone, their complexion, their hair. Look at, and same thing with Jesus. You search Jesus, and why does it do with this skin tone, complexion, and hair pop up? Okay, cool. Just stay with me now. Right? In the Bible, it describes the description of hair like wool in Daniel. The Revelation one is the one I wanted to find. That was my fault. I was supposed to have that written down. All right. In Revelation 1:14, it describes Jesus having hair white like wool, white as snow. But the attribute that I want to point out is the wool. That dude that I just showed you does not have hair like, well, is that the actual whole scripture? Hair like wool. Okay, they didn't pull the whole scripture, but that's it. Wool is a texture. And hold on, I'll pull a picture of it just so y'all see. And a lot of y'all who are in the, or have had any wool is a text. Again, look at that. Now that Christ that I showed you before, he ain't have hair that looked like that. His hair didn't look like that. But y'all do know who has hair that looks like that. We're not gonna go there. But there are multiple other scriptures, and now I'm kind of upset that I don't have my Bible. Next, but this is just the run through episode, so forgive me. This is just kind of walking through how these episodes are gonna go, the subject matters and stuff. We're gonna get deep into the details. I'm gonna have a Bible with me. I'm gonna pull scriptures, show them to you, etc. on the episodes that call for that. But this is just giving you an idea, so I'm going to hit you with bullet points. There's multiple scriptures where it speaks on the prophets being black, God being black. He made our bodies from the dirt and etc. But not only just things like that you could put two and two together to come to a conclusion, but literal direct ones like there's a scripture in Solomon where he literally says, "My skin is black upon me." So it's like that's again, they've been lying for quite some time. But not only just that though. Like I said, not only just the biblical references that make you question, well, if the Bible says this, then I Google search that. How is that possible? Okay, no, not just that. It's not just the scriptures that draw contradictions between what we've been taught and reality. Not just the scriptures. Where were first humans on Earth? What do you say on Earth? Look, Eastern Africa. The first humans, Homo sapiens, are believed to have evolved in Africa. Specifically, most scientists place the origin of modern humans in Africa around 300,000 years ago. While the exact location within Africa is still debated, discoveries in Ethiopia, South Africa, and Monaco suggest East Africa as a likely birthplace. So again, if we're just comparing reality, real life, to the Bible, Adam and Eve, start there. If we're saying that this is a real, if you're the type of person that believes in the Bible and believes that the Bible is a real book, then the two people, let's just start with the one, Adam. We ain't even got to Eve yet. The first dude, Adam, he had to have been this East African dude that the scientists have discovered. Like, that's the only way you believe that the Bible was real is if you believe this, that Adam was a guy in East Africa. Where have you seen an East African dude that looked like that picture of Jesus that I just pulled up? Or the Jewish people that just, if Adam was an East African, then that means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was East African, and that means the Israelites are East African. And if the Israelites are Jews, and the Jews are the dudes that I just showed you, how? It doesn't make no, either somebody lying or somebody's lying. There's only two options. Like, so, again, bro. But like I said, we'll get further into that as the episodes go along. I'm going to have a whole episode dedicated to that, actually. But just know. Yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it, though. But that's, and just to now we got other people that are going to verify and validate that, because I'm not saying the Bible ain't true. I'm saying people that have been lying about it. Everything in the Bible is true. It's just been not told adequately. It's been misrepresented. You know what I mean? But I'm about to pull up a couple clips of dudes verifying the things in the Bible, right? We're going to start with Graham Hancock and this idea of a great flood. I'm sure that's another bullet point about the Bible that you done all heard of, Noah and this flood, the whole 40 days, 40 nights situation, the whole two of every animal situation. Okay. All right. Where is my Graham? And there it is. It was hiding from me. So there's a plausible theory of what that could have been. There's people that have done research into what they call ancient cataclysms, which is what would have been a flood situation. That's how we would articulate it now, is called ancient cataclysm. You know, that's so. But this is what people think that.
Probably more than one significant impact.
Let's be clear. This is the suggestion of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, that we're dealing with a giant comet that broke up into multiple fragments, that orbits in the Taurid meteor stream, and that 4 of those fragments fell out of the Taurid meteor stream, coming in on a trajectory roughly northwest to southeast, crossing the North American ice cap. The impact then continue across the Atlantic Ocean. There's a suggestion of impacts in Belgium and as far east as Abu Huraira in Syria. It's a global event. 50 million square kilometers of the Earth's surface is within the Younger Dryas boundary field. It's a really huge thing. So the suggestion is that there were multiple impacts at the beginning. Now, I report the work of Klub and Napier and their suggestion that the Taurid meteor stream is actually fucking dangerous and that we should be paying attention to it, that it has been a hidden hand in human history in the past and that it can cause us trouble in the future.
So that is the running theory of what could have caused a global like flood. These things broke up, hit the water, and the rest is history. You feel me? Okay, that's one. Now, 2. Meser West. Now, Before I play you this, I just want to preface this by saying that I'm using this as proof that Jesus existed, right? Now, even the people who don't believe in Christ don't deny that he lived. That he was a guy walking around named Christ, named Jesus. Now, what they don't believe is he was healing people, he was walking on water, he was restoring sight to the blind, etc. That's where they're calling BS. But even as you'll see Wes says here, the staunchest critics don't deny that he died under Pontius Pilate. We don't know if this dude was doing everything he said he was doing, but we know he lived and we know he died. That's the main part. That's the part that I really want to focus on. We know that nigga died. We know he got killed under Pontius Pilate. That's what we know. We ain't speaking to no validity about no mystical magical powers. We know that dude died.
Do you think it's possible that he didn't die? And do you think it's possible that they thought he was dead? There was actually a case where a guy was about to be harvested for organs. This guy started moving again and came back to life.
We know a lot about Roman crucifixion. Very skeptical biblical scholars. They'll say one thing we can be sure of is that he died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. Because we have not just multiple attested documents, but Roman and Greek and Jewish writers refer to that claim afterwards. The earliest depiction of Jesus on the cross is called the Alexamenos Graphido, worshiping a man with a donkey's head who's being crucified. Crucifixion was for the lowest of the low. In fact, if you were a Roman citizen, you were banned from being crucified. I believe it was Cicero who said that, like, the word crucifixion shouldn't even be on a Roman man's lips. The word excruciating, ex is off of in Latin, and crus, off the cross. That's where we get that word, is because this was designed to humiliate, and it was designed to be as painful as possible.
Do you think it's possible?
So yeah, y'all heard the one. I'll let it play again just so that one part that I want to emphasize on.
They thought he was dead. There was actually a case where a guy was about to be harvested for organs. This guy started moving again and came back to life.
We know a lot about Roman crucifixion. Very skeptical biblical scholars. They'll say one thing we can be sure of is that he died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate.
Again, even the most skeptical critics will concede that fact, that he died under Pontius Pilate, right? Okay, cool. Graham and West. So now that brings me to what the actual Dead Sea Scrolls are, right? And why I decided to name this podcast that. Like I said, I just had to walk y'all through the validity of the Bible, So, because now it'll make sense why I named this the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's in the narrow sense, identical with the Qumran Cave Scrolls, but it's the Jewish manuscript. So basically, what you guys know as the Bible comes from this. It's the oldest version of what we now know as the Bible, the King James Version, because now you got the New International Version. You got some that are just the New Testament. I'm talking about the OG King James Bible, the 1611. This is the earliest version of that. It's a collection of manuscripts that later became the Bible, the KJV. All right, now, and it was a bunch of fragmented pieces of it discovered in the caves, in the Qumran caves. And the part that I want to say, dating back from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE. So 300 years before Christ and 100 years after Christ is when these things was written. So at this point now, it'll be right a little bit less than 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago, right? A little bit less than that. So this is the earliest version that now there could be earlier versions that we just haven't found yet. But as far as the ones that we've actually found, this is it. This is the early. And now we have a couple of other older writings, but they're not manuscripts. They're not organized documents. They're the Sumerian cuneiform texts that we can't even read because we don't understand cuneiform. And then the Egyptian pyramid texts. Those both are older texts and writings than this, but they're not biblical writings. As we know them now, biblical writings, right? They're Egyptian hieroglyphs and stuff. And I'm going to go into the hieroglyphs right now because we actually do know a little bit about Egypt. We don't know anything about Sumeria or cuneiform, so I'm going to save that for another episode, but I'm going to touch a little bit on the Egyptians and the pyramids right now, since we know that they predate the Dead Sea Scrolls. And we know that the Egyptians were doing crazy things that we don't know how they were doing them. So like, let's investigate a little bit into that. Now, just give me I don't have my wallet on me. Give me 1 second. Because I think I do have $1 in there too. I think I have $1 in there now. Apologize for that, folks. But this one is a rather important visual. So I'm sure you've all seen a $1 bill, but I had to just, for reference, you've all seen a George, God damn it, my goddamn filters. You've all seen a George Washington. You've all seen that guy. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it'll stay. You've all seen this guy. On the back of this John, you've all seen this as well. Now, out of all the monuments in the world, come on, bro. This guy, because I don't want to take the whole filter off just so y'all can see this. Boom. That'll work a little bit. Y'all know what? Okay, boom. Out of all the monuments to put on the back of the $1 bill, why would you pick this one? Right? You didn't just put all of the grand monuments, all of the world's, I forget the phrase, you know what I'm talking about, the biggest monuments, the world, wonders of the world. That's the phrase I'm looking for. The 7 greatest wonders of the world. You know, Mount Everest, the grand, the big hole in the ground, the great, you know what I'm talking about, Grand Canyon. Bro, I'm tripping. All of the wonders in the world, all of the massive things on Earth, pause. You didn't just put all of them in a hat and pull out the pyramid. There's a reason. I don't believe in coincidence. You didn't just decide to put that on the back and you didn't decide to put the eagle on the back. But we're going to talk about the eagle another day. The pyramid is the one I want to focus on right now. And I apologize for how stupid that looked, me trying to put the dollar up on with the filter. I should have just probably took off the filter real quick, but I didn't want to do all that. But why the pyramids are so fascinating and why they need more investigating and more attention paid to them. I'm about to play y'all a clip of Graham on Piers Morgan where he's discussing the advanced dimensions that are in the pyramid and how he's just going to discuss them. He's going to tell you what the dimensions are and all the stuff, and then I'm going to talk about it a little bit after that.
We observe the stars, and because of this wobble,
it's 640.
To these great pharaohs where they thought there was a risk of being grave robbed, so they didn't ever put the bodies in them, but they told the people they did.
Yes, it could have been that. But then you have to ask yourself, why, when you take the height of the Great Pyramid and multiply by a particular number, which is not an insignificant number, it's a number that has geological significance. You take the height and multiply by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. You take the base perimeter, multiply it by the same number, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. And even my staunchest critics accept that the math on that is right when you go back to the original true height of the Great Pyramid at 481 feet. Now the question is it encoding the dimensions of the Earth by accident, or is it a deliberate and intentional thing to do? This monument speaks to the Earth. It is oriented within 3/60ths of a single degree of true north. It's an incredible precision for a monument on that scale. It's clearly connected to the Earth, oriented to true north, and at the same time encoding the dimensions on the Earth on a scale of 1 to 43,200. Why is that important? It's important because there is an obscure astronomical phenomenon called precession. It's a wobble on the axis of the Earth. The Earth is our viewing platform from which we observe the stars, and because of this wobble, the stars change their positions very, very slowly at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. These are called precessional numbers. There was an enormous study.
How do you remember all this stuff, by the way?
I live it.
He definitely does live it. So all those dimensions that are encoded of the earth in this pyramid, like you said, did they just happen to do that? Sure, possibly, but no, nobody buys that. They didn't just happen to do that, right? Nobody buys that. So the theories of what that was, because again, you're not doing all that just to throw some dead guys in there, right? No, and at this point, nobody believes that that's what really the pyramids were. So some of the theories that they're speculating is that it was a power plant. That's the most obvious one. That's actually really the only, okay, I can't say the only, but that's the most prominent one. They're saying that it was either used to harness the geomagnetic electricity from the earth because it's placed exactly at 33 degrees longitude, right between the equator of the earth and the North Pole. And that spot is a geomagnetic hotspot. So that's the first one. And second, they're theorizing that it was extracting hydrogen from the water beneath the pyramid. And it just recently got discovered that they've been known that there was water under there. But what you want to say? They did the LiDAR scan and they seen these coil-looking things, and I'm sure some of you who've been following this, y'all done seen these pictures as well, so I'm not showing y'all nothing new. But for those that haven't, you see these are the scans, and that's a depiction, a 3D rendering of what it looks like under there. And that's exactly what it looked like. Some electrical things. It looks like a power plant. Yeah. So that's what they're speculating, that it was a energy generating machine. And you got to remember also, I should have kept that up. You got to remember also that the landscape at this time was not desert. All of this was green, and it was a city, obviously. So they would definitely need things to power. Now, and of course, we're going to get into more speculative things, like, because I even seen somebody that was thinking that it was some type of portal that they were using to power, but that's going way far. But for the most part, it was probably just that. It was just a power plant to bring lights to the city, something simple, like, but how they were getting the power is what's complicated. The use was probably a simple use, just to lights and energy for the people. But how they did it is what's complicated and complex. You feel me? And things that need to a bit more investigating. All right, my bad. All right. Then in the landscape. Oh, and the last couple things before I get y'all up out of here. So much so, they were so advanced, and however they did this was so complex that even the Greeks traveled themselves down there to learn from them. And the reason I bring them up is because we kind of think people automatically, I don't want to say automatically, but kind of automatically associate the most advanced people with the Greeks because of their knowledge of the stars and all that in astronomy. But they learned all that from the Egyptians. They don't even deny that. It's only the later Europeans that kind of turn away and downplay the level of knowledge that the Egyptians gave to the Greeks. They don't like to admit that happened. You feel me? They kind of look away or act like it didn't happen. You feel me? But the Greeks learned everything from them. And also why I bring up the Greeks is because the story of Atlantis. Everybody automatic, and that's why, because everybody definitely does associate Atlantis with the Greeks, thinking that it's a Greek mythology story. But that's definitely what I thought as well. I always thought Atlantis was a Greek mythology story. It's not. It's the Egyptian origin story. It's actually why the Egyptians say they are so advanced and know how to do all the stuff that they know how to do, is because they spawned from an even more advanced previous civilization, which in itself only makes sense, right? Because the reason why America is the most powerful country is because we came from the previous powerful country, the Romans, which came from the most previous powerful country, Greeks, who learned everything for the previous powerful Egyptians. You see where I'm going with this? So it only makes sense that they would spawn from an even more powerful race, and that's why they are who they are. That makes sense. But the fact that the Greeks took that story and ran with it, and they never gave the proper credit to where it came from, is insane. That's, again, people been lying about history or misrepresenting it or whatever. But here I'm about to just play you this clip real quick. of this guy who came on Joe Rogan, who is talking about the Atlantis and where he thinks, because again, there are people who are doing in real time research and investigating, trying to find these places and things, and they have a couple theories about where it's at. And so, like I said, this is like I was telling y'all at the beginning, this podcast is going to be following things like that in real time.
That sounds insane.
Atlantis was said to be an empire made up of 10 kingdoms. And then there was the lost city of Atlantis, which was the capital, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 2 of water, 3 of land. And essentially, they were obliterated by a cataclysm, as passed down by Plato, although it's worth mentioning that Plato got the story of Atlantis from Solon, who was his uncle separated by 6 generations. But what most people don't realize is that Solon had traveled to Egypt, and so ancient Egyptians is where that tale comes from, which makes it even more bizarre because I would argue that the most spectacular ancient civilization is the Egyptians. No disrespect to the Romans. Let me just say, it represented a civilization that was doing great things. They were more global than what many people think would be possible.
Hard to deny.
That sounds insane.
Atlantis.
Yeah. And that place that he was talking about, or the place where he believes it is this right here. I'll pull it up on maps so I could, zoom out a little bit. And so remember how Plato described it, how he just said Plato described it, concentric circles opening to the south. I think he was, I don't even know how to make that go away. That's sad. Okay. Just press it again, dumbass. Okay. This is what he was talking about. And you obviously see the concentric circles. You see the opening to the south. This white right here is salt from like the sea. They actually found mollusks and other artifacts, other sea life in the dirt over here as well. And this whole area is miles long. So it's big enough to house all the people that is said to have been housed there. So this is where he thinks that Atlantis is. And I'm kind of in agreements with him. And the kicker for me, that is when he, the whole streets lined with gold stuff, and then realizing that this is in Mauritania, specifically in the Mali region where Mansa Musa was at. That was the kicker for me. That was like, okay, not that I'm with you. I'm with you, Jimmy. I'm with you. I'm buying it that's where it was at. And you got a couple other people who think it's these island chains right here or somewhere right around here. I forget which ones it is. I think it's these ones, but one of these island chains are Atlantis, somewhere under the water over here, which again, it's possible. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm with him and I'm following him on this one. I think that's it. And that would have been, so our timeline as we know it, the Egyptians say they go back 6,000 years, which would have been, what I think like 4,000 BC, 6,000 years from right now. So about 4,000 BC, their timeline goes back. It may be a few more, give or take. I'm gonna have a whole episode dedicated to Egypt, so don't worry. We're gonna double back on all this. Episode on the Greeks as well, all that. But the Egyptian, they say it goes back like 4,000 years, so a total of 6. So if we're buying that Atlantis was real, then we're talking right around in the 10,000 plus year range, right? So that's one civilization in one area of the world in Africa that we're talking about 10,000 years. I'm about to jump y'all over here to another area that is said to have been in that same area or in that same time frame, Göbekli Tepe. They discovered this. This is talking about 9,500 BC to at least 8,000. So again, like I was telling you about the 10,000 year area, give or take. And again, this is things that is more advanced than should have been capable at that time. 10,000 years ago, you should not have been able to, let me find those pictures for you guys real quick. This type of artwork and design should not have been, you should not have had the tools to do this. Now, again, if you want to say in theory, maybe these people got so good with hammers and chisels that they could make something like that 10,000 years ago. But if as the current workers and architects have stated, they don't think it's possible. They don't think that to be able to make something like this, and something that has lasted 10,000 years, you should not have been able to do this. And I heard Rogan talking about this raised relief art style, to not carve an image into the rock, but to carve the rock away and reveal an image. To do that, something that complex and so long ago, is unheard of. It's crazy. So yeah, this is another one that kind of shocked me. And let me get y'all one more before I get y'all up out of here. The Olmecs, how we know them was before Mexicans, right around in the Latin America, South America area. The ancient people there, that was the Mayans. I'm sure y'all have heard in school the Mayans and the Olmecs and all that. Before Mexico was Mexico, it was them, right? And I'm sure you've all seen regular Olmec heads that look like that. But when I heard that there was one that looked like this down there, there was a El Negro. And this brings me back to the previous point that I was making about black people being where they shouldn't be. I never would have thought there would have been an El Negro Olmec head. Like, again, just so many questions that get arose. So this is another thing that I'm going to be following. There's a guy, like I was telling you, came on Rogan, that he was talking about us. I'm going to be following his work too, and covering his investigations and such. But yeah, El Negro, and look at his hairline. The hairline is what really, like, bro, like I said, that's a nigga. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, this is gonna be the starting point for the Dead Sea Scrolls podcast. It's only going up from here. We're gonna be investigating these subject matters with fine-tooth combs, going over it step by step, elaborating everything. Like I said, I'm not just sticking to minority groups like the Olmecs and the Atlantis, because it's in Egypt or what. I'm gonna be talking about the Greeks as well. Like I said, I got the whole Critias right here that we're gonna walk through and discuss. I'm gonna find the exact quotes that Plato was describing the city and etc. Like I said, we're gonna go through all that in depth. But like I said, that's a whole nother podcast, a whole nother episode in itself. I done kept y'all here for far too long already. No, not too long, but it's coming up on too long. So I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go. Salute, love, respect, stay safe, and most of all, stay dangerous.